You're listening to the Getting Lucky Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. I'm your host, Lucky Robert Curtis. We are joined, of course, by English Tom Burton.
Hello.
Hello, hello. This is part 2 of our review of the UFC on FX card, Belfort versus Bisping. In part 1, we covered all of the preliminary fights. In this one, we're going to cover the main card. And the first fight of the main card is Thiago Tavares versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. Oh, geez, I practice it, and then as soon as I try to do it, it flies out. Nurmagomedov.
Do you want me to try it? I'm going to try his full name. Khabib Abdulmanopovich Nurmagomedov.
I think you threw in an extra syllable or two.
Yeah.
This fight, before we get into the fight itself, Khabib wore a hilarious shirt to the weigh-ins. I don't know if it's true or not, but the shirt said this: if Samba was easy, it would be called jiu-jitsu. When I saw that, I thought of that little cat from the Puss in Boots movie. Ooh.
Oh, damn!
Yeah. That was great. And in fact, on Twitter, every Brazilian fighter immediately started posting pictures of Verdum catching Fedor in an armbar.
Oh, yeah.
That was great. That was a nice little piece. Good job by Khabib. Clearly the guy is insane wearing that into Sao Paulo.
I loved his oversized Russian hat as well, fur cap. He really takes his nationality to comedic levels.
Yes. I believe someone was saying that he's not actually from, Russia proper, but he's from
Dagestan,
more
isn't
of it? Somewhere, because with a name like Khabib, that doesn't strike me as
it's
Ivan.
Kind of Islamic. I think it's somewhere in the Caucasus region.
Yeah, it's somewhere north of Afghanistan. Somewhere. But anyway, the guy's a freakishly good wrestler. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to a wrestling meet, but wrestlers do little warm-ups. And there's one thing in particular that they do. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but what they do is they slide on their knees as they practice going for a single. You know? And so it's like a little transition where it looks like they're almost breakdancing on their knees as they slide across the mat.
Is that what Rashad Evans does when he walks up the stairs?
No. Rashad Evans goes on all fours.
Oh, right.
These are they're literally just surfing on their knees, it looks like. And you can tell who's good at those wrestling meets by how fast they can do it. Khabib was doing this during the ring entrances, and I was shocked because he may be the fastest guy I've ever seen do that. And I've seen quite a few high-quality wrestlers do that. Just watch. Next time you see another high-level, I believe John Jones does it sometimes during his warm-ups when he's actually there in the ring. Just a little knee slide, and you can see them throw out a looping hand to try to catch a low single as they're warming up. Khabib, I think this guy is arguably one of the best wrestlers in the lightweights. And we didn't even get to see him wrestle in this fight.
No.
Because he destroyed Thiago Tavares. He landed a left uppercut. It's kind of a mix between a hook uppercut. It was the second time he threw it. The first time he glanced it. The next time, pow, landed it right on the button. Thiago Tavares went down, went fetal position, and then Khabib, with Dan Miragliotta watching, landed 15 straight elbows. And these were not little ding, ding, ding. These were crazy, earth-shattering. These are the kinds of elbows you use, when you watch action movies and the hero goes and he breaks into a car so that he can hotwire it. This is the elbow he throws to break the window. The bang, short elbow. 15 of them to the side of his head. Darren Miragliotta's like, no, I still think there's some fight in him. Oh, no, he's coming back, Oh, he went unconscious and now he's awake again. 15 blows to the head.
There's a problem with the description of when a fighter is not defending themselves. I think some referees think that when they're turtling up and covering up, that's defending themselves, and that the only way that when they're not defending themselves is when they go limp and they lose all tension in their muscles and they go like jelly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, not defending yourselves is not getting yourself out of that position with those where you're not answering those blows. So 7 unanswered blows is a bit too far. 15 is ridiculous.
If Khabib had gotten Tavares in the crucifix and was landing those types of elbows, it wouldn't matter if Thiago Tavares was unconscious or not. If he took 3 or 4 of those hard elbows like that, any referee would stop it.
Yeah.
Because Thiago Tavares' arms weren't trapped, Dan Miragliotta let him eat some punishment. And I think one of the things that Miragliotta was doing was he was looking at Tavares' face and seeing if his eyes rolled up into the back of his head, which is, refereeing 101. That's the surest sign you should probably do something. What he didn't see, I think, at the back of the head, Khabib was actually holding Tavares' head up with his other hand and bringing them into his elbows. So even if Tavares' eyes were closed and his face all crunched up with pain, he couldn't go limp like that because Khabib's hand was holding his head up.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a positioning thing, or maybe it's just a common sense thing. Like, if you're taking shots that hard to the side of your face, right to your temple, whether or not the fighter's got some fight left in him, let's just call it a day and save him some punishment.
I agree.
But Dan Miragliotta's second burial aside, Nurmagomedov looked awesome.
He looks completely awesome, and I really want to see him thrown against an American wrestler. I do too. I think he should fight Gray Maynard.
Gray Maynard would be a perfect match because they're both sort of brawler sluggers with power, and I think Khabib actually would out-wrestle him.
Yeah. So
Khabib, we love you. If we could speak Russian, we'd have you on our show if you'd have us.
Well, I think he does. I think he does speak English because he's with American Kickboxing Academy.
Yeah, but does he speak enough English to have a good interview? Like, you're marginal. Your English is barely good enough to be on the show.
Oh.
No, Tamain. Let's talk about the heavyweight. Gabriel Gonzaga versus Ben Rothwell. These two dudes were so hairy that I thought that if they clinched up, they wouldn't be able to separate. Like, their chest hair would be like Velcro, holding them together. Gabriel Gonzaga is freakishly hairy. And he's got back hair, he's got chest hair, he's got arm hair, but no hair on the shoulders. It's kind of weird. Does he shave it? Is it just a genetic flaw where his sweater doesn't cover the shoulders?
I think he's hairy just because it gives him grip for his jiu-jitsu, and he doesn't shave it.
Oh, you think it's like the same? It's like wearing like tape on the ankles.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I like you. That's actually... Who knows? It could work. What did you think about this fight?
I think it was Gonzaga. This is the new Gonzaga. Well, I wouldn't say the new Gonzaga. This is a return to form for Gonzaga.
Yes.
Possibly not good enough, though, because I think there was cardio problems in both fighters. But I think it was a smart Gonzaga. That's what I'm calling it.
I think it was smart because Gonzaga came out to Danzig. How smart is that? Mother! Who knew the Brazilians were all in... Actually, that's not true. One of our good friends is a Brazilian who loves metal. Shout out to Michel. Yeah, he came out and went immediately for his takedowns. I do think he gassed, though. But maybe... I mean, it's hard... when you watch all these lightweight fights and you see their level of pace, like Pepe and Nurmagomedov, and then you see the heavyweights, it's almost like they're moving in slow motion.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was that or that Gonzaga and Ben Rothwell... Well, I know Ben Rothwell has no cardio. The other thing about Gonzaga is that he still has some serious pop in his punches. He kept landing these straight rights, staggered Ben Rothwell a little bit in the first round, and then I believe it was that right that really dropped Ben Rothwell that allowed Gonzaga to get in that guillotine. Yeah. And by the way, how clever is it for Gonzaga to have the guillotine landed, and he was looking, but he wasn't looking into the camera like someone like Nate Diaz might. He was looking at the screen to see where his arms and positions were, to see if he had it sunk in and where his arms were with the choke, and that's when he pulled guard.
I did not notice that.
Pretty cagey, huh?
You got some serious eyes on you, Rob.
Thank you. That's what happens when you watch on a super massive HD screen. My wife's fairly well-to-do. I'm her arm candy. So yes, Gonzaga even said after the fight that he had been refocusing on his jiu-jitsu, which I think is beautiful. I like Gonzaga. He seems like a really nice guy. Ben Rothwell, let's face it, he looked horrible.
I've generally never really liked Ben Rothwell. The only thing that I've liked was when he sent Brendan Schaub's astral spirit to heaven.
Nice. Rothwell's striking defense looked really bad. Like, I've seen better movement out of statues. Just continually pop with that straight right. Ben Rothwell didn't move, had his hands in bad positions. I don't know if it even warrants talking about it any more than that.
No. I don't think he really even has a place in the UFC anymore.
We talked about Bryn Rothwell in the previous show as being the gatekeeper to the top 10. I think he's lost that status.
No, he couldn't. I mean, he got destroyed by Czech Congo, and that's bad enough, in my opinion.
You think Ben Rothwell should be cut, or do you think we should feed him to like your lowest tier type guys?
He's on thin fucking ice, my pedigree chum.
Let's talk about the middleweight fight, the co-main event, Daniel Sarafhian versus CB Dollaway. Can I first say, in all masculine security, that Daniel Sarafhian has extremely pretty eyes.
I noticed them as well.
He's got pretty eyes. Yes,
you're not alone.
They're a little bit breathtaking. You know, he's kind of got that crazy, mean, stout fire hydrant body, but then those beautiful, beautiful blue eyes. They sing to me like a song. And CB Dollaway, I think we can agree. We talked about this earlier. Let's change his name from the Doberman and let's call him Matt Damon's little brother. Or can we call him the Born Dollaway, the Born Identity? I think they're dead ringers.
Yeah.
What did you take away from this fight? I noticed a couple of things. I want to see what you think first.
I was surprised that it was an exciting CB Dollaway fight first, most of all. And I was kind of surprised that he didn't really use much of his wrestling, though. I mean, I don't have a problem with him using it. It's just the way he uses it. Just not doing anything. I think if he kind of mixed up his strikes with a takedown, ground and pound, I think he could have probably beaten Sarafhian a lot easier than what happened in this fight. Yes,
I agree. And the thing that was funny was Sarafhian was a tank, but he was faster. I think he had better hand speed than Dollaway. The fact that Sarafhian was the shorter guy and the stronger guy, even though Dollaway looked huge in comparison, that kept CB from shooting his takedowns. And he was actually, I think his stand-up looks a lot cleaner in his striking. But when he's throwing, whichever hand he's throwing with, he drops his other hand. And that's how he was getting clipped by Sarafhian. I gave round 1 to Daniel, clearly.
Yeah, I can see, yeah.
But the funny thing is it looked like Dollaway was taking more punches, like a lot more punches, but it was Sarafhian's face that was busted up. It was almost like, like the Corsican brothers or Tomax and Zaymot. He punches the other guy and he's the one feeling the pain. Don't get that reference?
No, I don't get that reference at all.
That's G.I. Joe as well as Cheech and Chong.
Well, we don't have G.I. Joe. We have Action Man.
Okay. I thought the turnaround was right at the end of round 2. I thought up to that point you could make a case that Sarafhian was winning round 2, but then Dollaway landed and nearly finished Sarafhian. He's got a pretty good chin on him, and maybe a little bit of luck as well that some of those punches in the last seconds of round 2 in that flurry by Dollaway didn't connect more cleanly, because I think the fight would have been over. I mean, it was almost stopped as it was. And then in round 3, Sarafhian looked gassed.
I think that's generally his size, though, with all those muscles. He's not really built for cardio. I think he's more built for those first-round stereotypical Brazilian finishes.
Yeah, I think he had pretty good takedown defense, though. Maybe he's Armenian, living in Brazil. He's Armenian ancestry, so maybe that means he's got good judo, because it seems to be a national birthright. Because of the fatigue of both fighters, round 3 was actually pretty exciting, because they were so tired. They didn't bother with defense or takedowns or any of that stuff, particularly in the last 2 minutes. They just stood there. Sarafhian would land a punch on Dollaway, and Dollaway would immediately throw a punch back, almost like Rock'em Sock'em Robots or some bad Rocky movie.
Yeah.
Wait, what am I saying? There are no bad Rocky movies.
No. Well, no, I don't like Rocky 5.
Well, that's because you're British. I'm surprised you even like Rocky 4. You're probably cheering for the Russians.
I love Rocky 4. That's my favorite of them all.
Actually, it was mine too. I remember actually watching that in the movie theater, and people were jumping up and down in the movie theater, cheering like it was actually a prize fight.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if
I was
a huge standing ovation for Rocky's ending speech.
Well, I think I burst into tears. I was in 3rd grade. Oh, if you can change, I can change.
We can all change.
That was a split decision for CB Dollaway. Although realistically, I thought Sarafhian got round 1, and then Dollaway got round 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the main event. And I was skeptical on how Vitor would do. I thought if he came out as Vitor of old, then he could win this fight. What I didn't realize, because we did our preview show before the weigh-ins, was that Vitor was invoking the mystical, magical Brazilian haircut.
The war hawk.
You know what I'm talking about. I think the first sighting of it that I remember was Ronaldo, when he did that reverse triangle on his head during, I think, the 2002 World Cup. Just showed up with the strangest, weirdest haircut. If I had known Vitor was going to invoke the voodoo of the magical, weirdo Brazilian haircut, I clearly would have picked him from the very start. And by the way, Michael Bisping, I think he's a better fighter when he shaves his head. It's a Mank thing, right?
No, well, he had the shaved head when he got knocked out by Hendo. Michael Bisping does have a problem, though. He tries to draw out the decision with his stand-up, but he just doesn't have the defense to do it against these top-ranked opponents.
I have a theory about him. I think when he fights top-ranked opponents, i.e. Vanderlei or Hendo or Vitor, I think he gets happy feet. I think he's acutely aware of their power. What do you think?
What do you mean by happy feet?
Like, he's got great footwork,
yeah.
Right? And he uses that to create angles, duck and weave, slip punches, and counter with other fighters. When he's fighting good fighters with power and a reputation for knockouts, I think that footwork becomes more like he's twiddle-tinking away rather than trying to set up his own offense. Like, he's coming in, and instead of throwing a punch and trying to land with a little bit of power, he's more like doing a tap, tap, tap on the window.
Yeah.
And then trying to get the hell out of there. I think he looked very tentative in round 1 against Vitor.
Well, we didn't see much circling from him either. He was kind of like... He does have a karate background, but I think he was trying to do these hand traps, like similar to what Lyoto Machida does, and he tried to do it against the head kick, and he just got knocked out from it because he missed it.
Yeah, both times. There's a saying in fighting, like you protect the target, you don't block the strike, because if you miss the strike, you're going to get hit. But if you block the target, like when someone tries to kick your head, you cover your head up. You don't try to catch the kick in midair. And both times he got dinged. Vitor was fairly cautious in the first round, and then in the second round, I think it was clear he had no respect for Bisping's power.
Yeah,
because you could see his hands were almost at his hips.
Bisping isn't someone you should be cautious with, though. You should be looking for that knockout.
Well, massive kick to end round 1. He didn't land it clean. But, I mean, It was enough to floor Bisping. Round 2 starts, he bloodies his nose, and then a few seconds later, he puts his shin to the temple and then finishes him out. This is the third thing about Dan Miragliotta. And this wasn't something that was as noticed because of his serious mess-ups in the earlier 2 fights. Vitor had Bisping down, and he was over him, and he was throwing punches and elbows and things like that. Miragliotta rushed in, stopped him, put his hands on Vitor,
and then jumped
and then
out.
backed off.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. Oh, no, keep going. like, listen, you can't do that because that's either giving Bisping a moment to recover or you're going to let Bisping take more damage. If you're going to step in and put your hands on the fighter and pause him, then you have to stop it. You have to go all the way.
It kind of takes it would have taken Vitor's complete attention away, and he'd be like, "What do you want?" And Bisping could have upkicked him or something.
That's right. Vitor actually looked at Dan Miragliotta and said, "What you want?" Yeah, your point about Bisping using those hand traps and trying to block the strike was well noted. I had that in my notes as well. Funny enough, after the fight, Vitor went off, clamoring not for a fight against Anderson Silva, but for a rematch with John Jones. And he was effusive in his hatred of Chael Sonnen. That surprised you? Like, I thought he was cutting a wrestling promo.
I think he does have this beef with Chael Sonnen, and I think he would like a fight with him.
He wasn't calling out Chael Sonnen. He said Chael Sonnen should just get out of the way and let me fight Jones. I have a theory, though. You want to hear my theory?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Vitor has been accused by other Brazilians of being fake. And I think Vitor is acutely aware of his public persona and would like to be as famous and loved as Aldo or Nogueira or Silva. I think he consciously thought, I'm going to pick the guys Brazilians hate most and talk trash about him and try to pick a fight. And then the Brazilians will be like, yeah, Chael Sonnen sucks. So that's why I think he specifically focused on Sonnen, which was a shock to me because I didn't, out of all the people he could be talking trash about, I would think it would be Silva first, because he just came off of a fairly dominant head kick win. And so you would think, I want a chance at middleweight rather than this oversized monster at light heavy. Do you think my theory is stupid, or do you think it's factual?
No, I can see some evidence in that, because I think Vitor was pretty much well loved before that in Brazil, before that front kick knockout by Anderson Silva, and Anderson Silva pretty much stole his place as Brazil's #1 most beloved mixed martial arts fighter.
Do you think that he's the #1 fighter, Silva, or do you think I still think it's Nogueira?
I don't actually live in Brazil, but
No.
In terms of being a legend, I'd probably say Nogueira is probably one of the most beloved Brazilian fighters.
But to your point, the sponsors are the ones that aggregating over to Silva.
Yeah.
So I see what I know what you mean. Do you think that Vitor? By the way, Vitor looked physically incredible in this fight. As his physique, his muscle tone, the weight loss, everything, he looked wonderful.
I agree. I think that he kind of dwarfed Michael Bisping, I think, and Michael Bisping's a very tall light middleweight.
Yes.
And in the fight with John Jones, he looked like a midget. He looked like a welterweight.
Yeah, and John Jones will do that.
Yeah.
I don't. Again, I went back and looked at Vitor's record, and he's lost to. These are the guys he's lost to. He's got 10 losses: Anderson Silva, Dan Henderson, John Jones, Randy Couture, Alistair Overeem a few times, and Tito. I believe that's it.
And Kazushi Sakuraba and Chuck Liddell.
And Sakuraba. And Chuck, exactly. Chuck Liddell and Sakuraba. So if you're going to have 10 losses, you probably would be hard-pressed to find 10 guys that you wouldn't want to lose to more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To say, I lost twice to Alistair Overeem, and I'm naturally a middleweight. People are like, okay. I'll give you that one. I think Vitor at 35 is as good as any middleweight not named Anderson Silva.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we give Anderson too much credit, but I think we might see more of a fight in a rematch with Anderson and Vitor. I'm not going to say it was lucky, but it was a lucky kick, because obviously it was a well-placed kick. But I think if there's someone to give Anderson problems in the stand-up, it would be Vitor.
Again, let's not focus on their last fight.
Yeah.
If we just look at their skill sets, Vitor has the fastest hands in the middleweight division, arguably in the sport. He's got power. He's got ridiculous credentials on the ground. He's very strong for middleweight. He should be the toughest test for Silva. Not only that, he's got a very long career of fighting only the top-level fighters. You're right. I think he should be the test. The eyeball test is there, but unfortunately, he's not going to be in line for a title matchup anytime soon.
But it has put him at the bottom of the pile, though, in my opinion. I think the title shot should go to Hector Lombard.
I think Hector. Let's see how Hector does against Yushin Okami.
Yeah.
I'm loving me some Hector. I think Weidman deserves his shot, which he'll probably get next because Bisping's no longer in the conversation. Then you give Lombard, and then if Vitor can build himself back up with one or two more and doesn't fall in love with the John Jones rematch, then give him Silva again. Because Vitor fought John Jones the best out of everyone. Coming within a half a second of completely breaking John Jones's arm. I believe he even got to round 4, if I remember correctly. Now he's desperate for that rematch, but he's just not big enough.
No. And what I don't want to see with Vitor, I don't want him to see a guy who kind of skips between light heavyweight and middleweight and only goes to middleweight to knock out the #1 contender, because that would just be horrible for the middleweight division.
Yeah, that would be horrible. Vitor should stay at middleweight, unless he wants to get back on the sauce, and then he can easily bulk. I loved Vitor back at 19 years old, muscle-bound and freakish looking. Let them all juice, that's what I say. All right, so I joke. Any final thoughts for the card?
It was a pretty good card for an FX card, and I hope to see more of them. And I kind of expect big things from Vitor, and we got a pretty good show from Khabib as well.
Yes. Fight of the night, CB Dollaway versus Daniel Sarafhian. I think we can both agree that was clearly the fight of the night. My favorite fight after that one was Pepe versus Vieira. Knockout of the night was Vitor. What do you think? Anytime you have a head kick...
I am kind of biased towards head kick knockouts. I do love them. I think that's because of my love for Krokop.
And when you're head kicking a guy with such a striking pedigree as Bisping, the degree of difficulty has to be taken into account.
Yeah.
And submission of the night was Ildemar Alcantara with that knee bar.
Yeah, I agree. Knee bars are quite difficult to pull off, and I'd go with that, even though it was against generally someone who had pretty poor defense against it.
Yeah, and if you're going to take the entire event that got to the submission, I believe Masaron Duba's suplex into a side choke or an arm triangle choke, for me, would have been sub of the night, because that suplex was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a shame that CJ Keith couldn't, or DJ Pooh, couldn't just get knocked out on the suplex, because I think that could have been KO of the night. Coming up later this week, we'll be joined by Mitchell to cover the UFC on Fox, Johnson versus Dodson, the flyweight championship match. So until then, I'll be saying see you next time, and on behalf of English Burton,
it's a goodbye from me.
Cheerio. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next time.